What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to ASC's third annual highlighted NFL draft reaction podcast.
Yes,
3
sir.
years
Yes, sir.
in a row. 3 years in a row, guys. How we feeling?
It's the 3-year anniversary of when you joined the pod. It's a great day.
Well, more like two because we started the pod. A month before the first draft or the 2020 draft.
Yeah.
First ever podcast I was on was the fucking Jordan Love pick, and I tried reasoning with that, and obviously it's gone so well. My reasoning,
yeah, he's been a stud.
Been a stud. But guys,
I remember I made that Instagram video for ASC about how it was a good pick.
I also remember making an Instagram video about my Justin Herbert take. So,
we both did really well.
We did really great that day. We did really great that day. Yep. But yeah, 3 years in a row. Can't believe we've been doing the podcast that long. Not gonna lie, we've been dedicated to the craft. And you know what else? NFL draft, favorite time of the year. We did the watch party last night. Went well. Had a blast.
It's great.
Two of us were depressed. The other one was having a glad time. He was having some fun. But let's just get right into these picks because usually these episodes are like an hour and a half. And I don't know if we'll have as much to talk about with these picks this year as we had in years past. But let's just get started. And first overall, what an absolute botch job. Travon Walker goes first to the Jags. Absolutely atrocious pick. Kurt, describe why.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a fan of Travon's number one. I know when me and you were talking about our big board, we had him ranked in like the 20s, 30s area. I think that really in any other draft, if it's not Jacksonville taking the number one overall pick, and if it's not, a non-elite level player draft, because I think we all agreed like there's no high-end top players. It's just a deep draft. He goes middle of the first round, maybe even towards the late first round. But with the circumstances that I just mentioned, all barring up, he's the number one overall pick. So look, we understood why Jacksonville did it because of GM Trent Baalke. Obviously, he loves and values those high upside, very athletic players, and that's exactly what Travon Walker is. But from a production standpoint, much worse than Aiden Hutchinson was compared to the 9.5 sacks to the 14 sacks that Hutchinson had. But like at the end of the day, we knew it was coming. I think it's a bad pick. Like I said, I would have gone Hutchinson, or I know we all like Kayvon a little more than everyone else. So maybe Kayvon there would have been a lot of fun. But I think when you get the production, the upside, Hutchinson is the best of all worlds. That's why he was going to be arguably the number one overall pick. And then it was announced 2 or 3 weeks ago is when it really came to set in stone that Travon Walker might be the number one pick. And, Doug Peterson said last night after the press conference that the room was never split on Travon Walker and that it was him the whole way. So, I mean, it's crazy. Jacksonville, they had a great number one pick last year, and it seems like this year they kind of botched it. But I'll talk more about this as we go through picks. But one of my least favorite things, I know we exactly do this, but we do it for content. I am not a fan of draft grades at all. I think draft grades are severely stupid. And I hate just projecting so much how these people are going to do. I know that's part of it, and that's a whole lot of the like draft fun and process. But at the end of the day, like when you really think about it, it's like, what do we know? We're saying we know more than a lot of these GMs a lot of the time, which is just
we don't know anything.
Coaching staff matters, landing spot matters, situation.
Exactly. And there's so many other details that not a lot of people really care about. Like you said, a lot of a lot of coaches and owners may value like character over pure talent or vice versa. So you kind of just run into, I don't know. I mean, Travon Walker, obviously we get it from the Jaguar standpoint, like I said, because it's high upside athletic. But if you take the Lions with the number one pick, they're probably just going to take Hutchinson because they're not valuing that as much as Jacksonville and Baalke does. So whatever, I don't really like the pick, but there's a good chance he goes out next year and reaches that ceiling and has a really good rookie year. So,
I mean, yeah, obviously there was rumors like this past week that the Jacksonville was really split on the first overall pick, and I never really bought into it. It always seemed like Travon Walker was going to be the guy. after those rumors started piling up the past few weeks. I just think the pick is really bad. I mean, I get it with this draft class. This draft class is not, I don't think there's really a blue chipper in this draft class. But you get a guy who's Travon Walker, who is an absolutely athletic freak, but his college production is severely underwhelming. And it doesn't help that it helps that he played in arguably the best defense in college football history, or one of. I mean, this was a group with 5 first-round picks this year, which is the most ever for one side of the ball. So for a guy who played on a D-line with guys like Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt, I mean, last year he had Jermaine Johnson in that group as well. He's going to look better. And obviously a lot of his one-on-one stuff isn't that great, but also you got to realize these picks are projection based. And if you feel like you can coach him up and make him the best player you think he can be with his traits, I understand it. This isn't a pick where I'm like, I don't get it at all. I get why they're doing it. It's just like, I think it's a bad choice. And if you're going to take a guy you want with upside, take Kayvon Thibodeau. He's got everything you want already, but with a lot of room to grow. Same with Aiden Hutchinson, just not as much of a room to grow to that extent. With this kind of draft class, you want to kind of play it safe a little bit. And I would have personally prioritized Kayvon Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson. Or if they went with a tackle first overall to help Trevor Lawrence, I think that would have made a lot of sense. But they decided to go with Travon Walker, who I personally didn't like a lot, and most of us didn't. And it seems like a lot of people are grilling into this pick as well. So just a very weird decision by the Jaguars, and we'll get to another decision they made later in the draft, which also is a bit weird. But yeah. Also, yeah, draft grades suck. I hate them too. But I think they can be a valuable practice, but I don't really take a bunch of meaning in them. You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Draft grades are probably my favorite thing about sports. And my second thought is I don't like taking a guy at first overall that didn't have a lot of production in college, especially in terms of not being able to win 1v1. You can't win 1v1 at the college level, even though he is playing some of the better teams at the college level, which a lot of those guys he faced are going to be turning into NFL players. But if you can't win there, I'm not fully expecting you to win at the NFL level at a high rate. And going first overall, I would take a guy that was able to win a lot of his 1v1s in college, because as you see, most of the stars in the NFL, they dominated at every single level that they played. And for someone that didn't dominate in college, like Travon Walker, I know he's got the athletics, and you look at him and you're like, this guy should be really good. We could just, fix up his technique a little bit. He went to Georgia. It's the best defense in the nation. You don't think they had great coaches and, trying to figure out how to fully maximize him? Yeah, maybe some of these NFL teams are better, but I mean, I'd argue that the Georgia coaching staff is probably better than anyone Jacksonville has. So I don't love the pick. But like we discussed, there was no surefire pick here, so you can't hate it too much. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
There were better options. And Sully, I know Kurt's seen this because I showed it, or we've talked about it. I want to read you some stats about Travon Walker. And would you say Aiden Hutchinson probably would have been the first overall pick if you were a betting man, if it wasn't Travon Walker?
Talking to me.
In terms of
Sully.
what I
I'm
thought,
talking to Sully.
In terms of what I thought should have happened, or what
should have.
Should have. I think Kayvon should have went first.
Oh, shut up, dude. Man didn't know who Kayvon Thibodeau was until last night.
No, honestly, though, I do, because I was never a huge Aiden Hutchinson guy.
Okay.
But yeah, regardless, I think Aiden and Kayvon should have went over Travon.
Okay. Would you have expected Aiden to be the first overall pick?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
Let me read you this from Warren Sharp. Travon Walker versus Aiden Hutchinson. Edge rusher pressure rate. Travon Walker, 9%. Aiden Hutchinson, 18%. Pass rush win rate on 3rd and 4th down. Travon Walker, 11%. Aiden Hutchinson, 24%. Percentage of pressures that were unblocked / cleanup. Travon Walker, 50%. Aiden Hutchinson, 25%. 3-cone. Travon Walker, 6'8'9". Aiden Hutchinson, 6'7'3". They had the same 10 time and their arm length. Travon Walker is about arm length because he's an athletic freak. They're really only drafting him for upside. That they think they can coach him into being one of the elite pass rushers in the NFL. And they tried doing that with Travon Chason a few years ago. Did not happen. And I loved Travon Chason coming out. But this is a guy I would have probably taken late first. There was a lot of edge rushers that went in between him and the end of the first round that I think all are better than Travon Walker. I think every single one that went after him were better. But yeah, not great. Jacksonville. They jagged it. Can we say they jagged it?
Yeah, we already did on Twitter, so we could say it here.
All right. Well, they jagged it.
All right, number 2, Aiden Hutchinson. I'll start this off. Everyone who doesn't really watch a lot of film kind of just has the excuse that he was horrible against Georgia, and it's like, oh, at the NFL level, blah blah blah. But it's like, why are we using his game against Iowa in the Big Ten championship, where he was incredible there? What about the Ohio State game? He had so many great moments, and against the best team in college football, I get he didn't show up on the biggest stage, but there's so many other sample sizes we can look at where he showed up on the biggest stage, like Ohio State and Iowa. Aiden Hutchinson had the production. He's a great character guy. He's well-spoken with media, like I said last night. I think it's a great pick for Detroit. Obviously, you run into he's a Michigan alum. Detroit's a Michigan. That seems like the perfect fit. We were talking about it earlier. And I thought this, when I realized that Travon was going to go 1, it was the easiest pick ever for Detroit. They sent it in like 2 minutes. Yeah. And like, I don't understand why the value for Travon 1, Hutchinson 2 was at like minus 150. I feel like there was no other way. It wasn't going to be them going 1 and 2. Severely confident in that happening. I love the pick. And like I said, the biggest thing I'll take away is you can't ignore what he did throughout the regular season and just sample in one game.
Yeah. I think it was like the most obvious pick of the draft as well. Once Travon went number 1, just keep him home. That happens all the time. It happened, later in this draft with Kenny Pickett as well. Just makes sense. Like you said, Aiden Hutchinson, besides, that Georgia game, which was bad, but overall stats show he was in the Heisman race as a defensive player, which is very, very impressive. That very rarely happens. He had a lot of production at the college level, which like I said, usually translates to the NFL level. And yeah, obviously it was a need for Detroit, and I think it makes sense. He kind of seems like a Dan Campbell type of guy. And I think it's good. They didn't screw it up. I like, honestly, Detroit, the last 2-3 years, they've done some of the best at handling their roster, in my opinion, in the NFL.
And we'll talk about what they do at 12 too, but I think we're all love that pick as well. So They did really well last draft. They're doing really well this draft. It's a new era for Detroit. And even though, like I said, they won, 3 games they won last year? It's looking good though. I mean, the future's bright.
I mean, yeah, they've managed this team, I think, as perfectly as they could have since Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell came to town. And Aiden Hutchinson, easy pick. I don't think they really, like you said, Kurt, I don't think they thought about it twice. They're like, he's there. He's probably their best player on the board in the entire class. Take him. Don't think about it. Just do it. And I mean, from a marketing standpoint, it just makes so much sense in that way in football.
I mean, I feel like, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but I just feel like sometimes NFL teams just want to overcomplicate things. And I love when picks are just like Hutchinson 2, or, I mean, we'll get to one later in the draft where it's just like, it just seems so simple. And it's great because I feel like it's going to pan out so well. You don't have to go like the Jaguars route, like we just talked about in one, where they're like, oh, even though he's not the best player, we love his tools, his physical attributes. Yeah. I just feel like you're over, like Sully was saying, why couldn't they do that at Georgia? I feel like I don't know. So
it's crazy to me too, because like GMs, like obviously they care so much about their job and like coaching staffs, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, they just put their jobs on the line with that number 1 pick that most people would consider risky. Where if they take Hutchinson, I guarantee the owners of the team are giving them way more slack. If Hutchinson's not that good, they're like, oh, everyone fucking thought Hutchinson would be really good.
Right.
I understand you do your evaluations. If you do truly believe that this guy is better than the other guy, you should take him. But at the end of the day, it's like, let's say you have, 2 to 3 years to prove yourself as like a GM or a coaching staff when they hire you as a new, addition. You take Travon Walker, maybe we're looking at like 1 year. If this guy is ass, then the owner's like, well, everyone fucking said this. He is ass. How did you not see this? You're out the door. Where if it's Hutchinson, the owner's like, damn, I'm really surprised because everyone's surprised. Like we kind of thought that he would be good. So it's interesting to me that teams do this, but I don't know.
Yeah. But he also run into an instance like with Carolina, their GM, Scott Frittier, I don't know his name. I think it's his first year. Like taking Neal is going to solidify so much more security for him as opposed to Matt Rule, who probably wanted Kenny Pickett because he doesn't want to have to rely on a Sam Darnold or a Baker Mayfield to be successful this year. But for that GM, even though you take Evan Neal, the team won't be good, but he's still really. Excuse me. I meant Icky. Excuse me.
Yeah.
The stance still stands though. Like he'll be fine as a GM, but Rule is going to go next year because they're not going to be good. But he'll be good, Icky. But it won't matter.
But I think that they kind of want Rule gone regardless, probably. So
I mean, you should.
Then fire him already.
Yeah.
We'll get to Carolina because Carolina's so.
That's
stupid.
another thing. So many teams just wait. Like, just fucking do it. Like that. We talked about this before, but like, I mean, I was wrong on Arizona, but they were like, fuck Josh Rosen and he sucks. Let's just take Kyler after 1 year. That's the mindset more NFL teams need to have. You just got to be more aggressive. You can't be like, just, all right, we'll give him a little bit more security. Nah, if you fucking believe something, just go out and do it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of teams just need to have less patience.
That's why we need to fucking run a team. We would kill it.
We would dominate running a team.
Matt Rule would not be, he'd be gone by tomorrow. I'd be like,
he'd be gone.
That's true.
We wouldn't have hired him.
He wouldn't have been on our radar.
He would have wanted Kenny Pickett at 6 overall. Like, imagine.
That'd be a money pick. That's a money pick.
But yeah, Jacksonville, you suck. Detroit, you're doing great. We'll come back to you in about 10 picks. But Houston at number 3, kind of making a big surprise at number 3 overall, because the first 2 picks went about as we expected. But we kind of heard rumors of this going up.
Yeah, I don't think it was, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think this was a big surprise because if you look at it, the news around the NFL drafts, like, month, it usually starts around like a month. A lot of that, unless it's the first overall pick, a lot of it is smoke.
Okay. Also, too,
really quick, we knew Stingley was great. You guys said he has. I fucking don't know anything about the draft, but you said he hadn't played in 2 years. He was literally the number 1 prospect at one point. It makes sense. They got him at number 3. Like there was nothing really there that showed you he shouldn't be in that contention. People just kind of forgot about him. He hadn't played in a while. It doesn't matter. Everyone knows he still has those skills. So take him at number 3. It's not really surprising to me.
It's also this happens a lot in drafts. Like it's something we should have saw coming, but it was a lot of small things that we didn't like ultimately all put together. So like a couple months ago, I know me and Sam talked about this, like Lovie Smith in his press conference was basically saying we're in desperate need of a corner.
And the fact that Lovie Smith is the head coach is like the more mind-blowing thing of the 21st century.
It's actually absurd. When he got the news, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like, what's going on here? This guy hasn't coached. He hasn't been a head coach since like fucking 2008. Illinois. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Illinois was
in
his
the NFL,
last job. Yeah, but he was horseshit with Illinois. He was horrible. But yeah, so he basically, and that's when me and Sam were like, we think it's going to be Sauce Gardner because he was on a lot of people's boards, CB1. And then you run into a couple of days ago, it's like they're doing their due diligence on Derek Stingley. And we think it's smoke screen a lot of it because obviously you don't know what to believe and not to believe. But like you were saying, he was a 5-star recruit. He's the best. He was arguably the best player in college football that 2020 season. 2019, excuse me. But like you said, he hasn't played in so long, and it's something we saw with Jamar Chase as well. Devontae Smith won a Heisman as a wide receiver, which is something you just don't see. Jalen Waddle was electric, and in this draft would have been wide receiver 1. But again, it's an instance where Jamar he was so good in that 2019 film, it didn't matter. Similar to Derek Stingley. Derek Stingley, if he played 2020, 2021, probably this is no surprise. And that's what the Texans are seeing here. And I love the pick. I mean, I like him better than Sauce Gardner. Like I said, he was so good in 2019 that I'm glad teams are not ignoring that he hasn't played in 2 years because he was so good that 1 year.
Yeah. Kurt, you and me both had Stingley. When we did our combined big board, I said I had Stingley higher than Sauce, and I was kind of expecting you to be different. You're like, no, Sauce is better, or Stingley's better. I was like, man of culture. That's
what we are. We're man of culture.
That's not to say that we don't like Sauce. We just really respect Stingley's game, and we believe in his talents. And going 3rd overall here makes sense. I mean, they needed a corner. Stingley is the best corner in the class. I like the pick a lot. And I mean, that kind of goes right into the Jets pick because once Stingley went 3, it was kind of obvious where the Jets were going to go at 4, I thought.
I think it worked out for both teams, though, because I feel like if you ask the Jets, I would say that they probably had Sauce as the number 1 quarterback.
Yeah.
So it's honestly, it worked out for both teams.
Exactly. And I didn't think they were going to take a tackle. I just didn't think they were going to do it. I thought they were going to give Mekhi Becton a little more time and that they thought George Fant was fine. I think they wanted that corner in this defense. And Sauce Gardner definitely fits that scheme. And do I think it's just a smidge early for Sauce? Yeah, but it's still like a pick regardless. I would rather have had them take Kayvon. That's just me. But they ended up going edge later in the draft. And I mean, the Jets said they got 3 of their top 8 prospects on their board in the first round today, which is crazy to think about. But we'll get back to them with their 2 other picks in the draft. But Sauce Gardner, solid selection. Think he'll be a good fit there. Anything else to add, guys?
No. I like his name, Sauce.
That's not his real name.
I know, I'm odd. But you're not allowed to call him Sauce until he gets pick 6. That's my ruling.
And barbecue sauce, that's
that's also a big red flag.
I'm just waiting for one of the, I don't know who it would be, but someone's gonna, when he gets a pick,
throw a barbecue sauce bottle at him
or something like that. They said they just dipped the football in their sauce and it got stuck or something like that. Or something stupid like that. But 5 overall, Kayvon Thibodeau, best player in the draft.
We should just combine the Neal pick too, because it's right there.
Yeah. Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau go right here at 5 and 7. Arguably, you can make a case that these are each are the best player in the class. You can make a very strong argument for either or. And the Giants get both of them at 5 and 7. And if I'm the New York Giants, I'm dancing around right now with knocking it out of the park. Sully, tell us more about it.
Sully, I got a question real quick. What do you think happens if Dave Gettleman's the GM? Who do you think the 2 selections are?
Jordan Davis. Absolutely.
No, I think it would have been Cross, Neal, or Icky. I think they definitely would have taken a lineman. And then after that, probably like fucking Breece Hall, the running back. Like I said, I don't really know much about the draft. But what I do know, and going back to my point before about, there's usually a reason why most people consider – there's a reason, like, there's a majority opinion most of the time. The film shows it that those are traditionally the players that not only had the best stats, but passed the eye test. Guys like, Aiden Hutchinson, like I was saying, he had great stats. When you watch him play, he was very, very good in almost every single game that he played. He was very productive. And that's kind of, Kayvon and Evan Neal. I know Kayvon had a little bit of off the field stuff, his, personal concerns. He got injured, right? Thibodeau was injured at one point.
Yes, he was. He was injured a little bit for this year, and then he just decided to stay out the rest of the year. So
yeah, good. I love it. Don't hurt yourself, Kayvon. You got better things to do in the NFL. But yeah, like I said, I feel like the Giants, especially with Dave Gettleman, we're also another one of those teams where a little bit of a head scratcher when we make our picks. And this year, I feel like when that pick came around and it was like, this has to be Kayvon, or Neal either or at 5, and we ended up getting both. And it was just like they nailed it. Then the next pick comes around and they nailed it again in terms of like the majority opinion. And I like that. Like I said, go get your guy if he's your guy. Like if they would have taken like a Charles Cross, I think that's also fine. But Evan Neal, majority opinion, he's the best tackle in this draft. And they ended up getting him. I think it's going to be a home run hit for the Giants. They need a lot of players on both sides of the ball. I think these are our 2 biggest needs, honestly, besides quarterback, in my opinion. And I think we did good. We nailed it, man.
Really off topic. Did you guys hear the Trevor Bauer news?
I did see that.
What happened?
Suspended for 324 games.
Is that 2 seasons?
2 years, yeah.
It's too little, but
He's
already been suspended basically.
I think that is so stupid because if they're going to suspend him that much, then that probably means that he did it, I would assume, right? Like that he's guilty of something. And if he's guilty of something, then why is he in it at all?
Yeah.
It should be no games or lifetime ban.
I agree.
That's
you can't find a medium to it because if
you
you
can't
did
be
it,
like,
it's
all right,
horrible.
we're gonna ban you for 1 year. Like it was really bad, but it's like, okay, we'll forgive you. Like, no, it's something you don't forget.
He got suspended for 2 years and he's already been out for a year. Like he's not going to play again. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, isn't he like kind of old?
That's going to be past his contract too with the Dodgers.
No one's going to pay him.
I'm sure the Dodgers contract is going to get voided somehow. I
thought it like gone hold maybe. Regardless, NFL, yeah, Giants won the draft. They're the best team ever, and yeah, that's all I gotta say about it.
All right, number 6 overall, the Panthers are up, and they didn't screw it up. There was no tackles taken between 1 and 5, and that was a big scare going into the draft, as if the Panthers could get a tackle or not. And well, all 3 were on the board available to them, and they go in state and take Ike Ekwonu, tackle from NC State, an absolute behemoth of a man that could just roll grade you into the ground. And they didn't screw it up. They literally just had to take a tackle and they would have been fine. And that's exactly what they did. They didn't reach for Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis. They stuck to their guns, took the tackle. All good for me.
Icky's on a lot of people's board, offensive tackle 1, and I completely agree. I would say this is kind of a comment on the last pick. I think Evan Neal is I'm very confident he will be successful in the NFL draft. But Icky has the potential to be really solid. Obviously, I think he has a high upside. It makes sense because NC State, like I said, he went to a high school in Providence Day, which is in Charlotte. He's been around this area for his whole life, and it's a great pick for Carolina. Like you said, we talked about this in the podcast, how their offensive line just fucking sucks and that you can't really have a successful quarterback with that as your trenches. So I'm fine with it. Matt Rule's going to get fired. They're probably going to win 4 games again, but whatever.
That probably means they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. Jimmy G is going to be their quarterback next year.
Well, he's on the Niners.
I'm still standing by that prediction. I mean, guys, Carolina does not have a pick until the late 4th round.
That's good.
So you don't think? Do you think Baker gets traded there?
I mean, I don't think Baker's going to get traded for a lot. I mean, he's obviously on the out. They're not going to get anything for him. So maybe Carolina could get him for like a day 3 pick.
Word.
I mean, I guess, or unless they outright cut him and they sign him, who really knows? I still think Jimmy G is the guy that's going to go there. But we already talked about Evan Neal. What a steal. And number 8, we have probably the second after Travon Walker, but real debatable pick with the Atlanta Falcons at number 8 overall. Obviously, the Falcons are in contention to be the worst team in football next year. They have needs literally everywhere but tight end. And they decide to go with Drake London, wide receiver from USC. I've got a problem with this pick, but I'll let you guys lead off with it.
I'm going to just say something and you guys will all agree and we can move on. This is not a good pick because Thomas Dimitroff was not selecting it. If he was selecting they would have given. If it was Drake London or Dimitroff, he'd be the best receiver in the league. But the problem was it wasn't him. So it doesn't.
Just talking to Dimitroff on the phone elevates your play.
Literally.
You're going to be an elite player if you talk to him.
All jokes
I don't
aside,
think this pick's that bad. I don't know.
I feel pretty meh about it. I didn't think London, he was like my wide receiver 4 or 5. Obviously,
yeah, but there's not a huge gap between those first four.
Obviously, Jahan's number 1 though. But
For
like,
sure.
that's like I also run into this too. He, like you said, he is on a lot of people's boards one of the top receivers, and the Falcons need weapons. We all can agree. So on paper, how bad can that be? I mean, we can all do our film study on Drake London,
Yeah,
but
I think it's fun.
it's fine. Like I think the Falcons will be the worst team in football next year. But I mean, you got to do something. You got to get some weapons for Marcus Mariota, which is a lot of fun. So I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, the Falcons practically live in 12, so I don't see like a huge role for Drake London with how much they play with 2 tight ends and things of that nature. And I don't see him as like I don't know. This is just a weird pick. I was kind of expecting a trade down from them, but they didn't end up doing it, or maybe take Charles Cross or anything like that. They didn't do it. I mean, this pick is, it's just not that inspiring for me. I thought there were better. I thought there was at least 4 receivers that were better than him on the board. But they take him as the first receiver. So
yeah,
that's their choice.
Can we not, like, Charles Cross of Seattle is just like good.
I have one thing to say about it.
Literally, it's the one pick I just don't give a fuck about.
Can I just say one thing? It's a great pick. But
it is.
Ironic as hell that they used the pick that they traded Russell Wilson for on an offensive lineman. It is so ironic that they did that. They finally invested in the first round on offensive line.
Yeah. Well, they probably realized they're like, all right, fuck. You can't have a good quarterback if your line sucks. So let's get our quarterback out of here, get Sully, a line, and get a new quarterback.
In the mock, we literally did exactly what the Steelers and Seahawks did in real life.
Oh, I know.
Except the Steelers didn't take Malik. They took
Kenny QB,
yeah. But Charles Cross, good pick. Good job, Seattle. And number 10 overall, we have Garrett Wilson to the Jets, the second receiver taken in this draft. So the Jets decided to not go edge or offensive line in the top 10. They go and get Zach Wilson, his ex-receiver, and that's going to be Garrett Wilson from Ohio State.
I'm not going to say it was like a surefire pick. I was pretty confident the way the board fell 1 through 9, they were going to take Wilson. And we talked about this before. We knew after their pursuit of Tyreek Hill that they were going to go after a receiver, whether that be Debo or just take 110th overall. There was no movement for Debo. I know they didn't want to give up the 4th or 10th pick.
It did offer a trade though.
Yeah. But I mean, it didn't work out, so they just got Garrett Wilson, who I think is my wide receiver 1. I think he's exceptional. We talked about the whole thing with, would you rather have Tony for like a 2nd round pick or just Debo with the money? You can also make the I know Sully was mentioning this on the stream last night. Teams are going to invest in rookie wide receivers because we've seen how much they've exploded and how cheap they are. So it runs into the question again, would you rather have a Debo who you're going to have to pay $25 to $30 million, or would you rather have a Garrett Wilson who was incredible in college and you get it for cheap? So I understand Debo's better, but from a financial standpoint, you run into that. They didn't get Debo, and I think Garrett's going to be great for them. I think we're all fans of how Joe Douglas has ran this team the last 2 drafts. And it's going to be exciting to see what the Jets can do. I know Jets fans are saying this is the most optimistic they've been since that Mark Sanchez AFC championship run. So it's good to see that.
I mean, yeah,
and it's also crazy the value that they've gotten off the Jamal Adams first 2 first round picks.
Garrett Wilson and Elijah Vera Tucker.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable.
But I will say, I have seen every single one of their first round picks, the Jets' first round picks, that is, mocked to them at 4th overall, and they got all of them. So just want to bring that up. Garrett Wilson, great pick. He was my receiver 2 in this class. Going to be a great X for Zach Wilson with Elijah Moore there as your slot option. So good job, Joe Douglas. You did great. Sully, you got anything to add?
No. Good job, Jets.
The better New York team.
We'll talk. I guess we'll just do Saints and Lions right now because they're both receivers. Olave at 11, Jameson at 12. we all thought that the Saints were going to get Olave at 16. I think a lot of people in mocks thought that they had interest in Olave, thought they could get him down there. But again, if you think he's your guy, Olave was productive as hell. I know Sam loved him after the 2020 year, especially.
Yes, sir.
Just go get him. And they did. They moved up 5 picks to go get their guy. And then for Jameson Williams with the Lions, moving up 20 spots to get Jameson Williams, who, I mean, Jameson outside his injury was the most electric receiver in college football last year. I loved it for the Lions.
Not for the Vikings, though. That trade was not great for the Vikings.
No. But yeah, it was good stuff. You got to get your weapons, and they both did. And both receivers are great. I think Olave, his fit in New Orleans is probably one of the best out of this whole draft. And that's why a lot of people mocked it happening. He's going to be really good. I'm excited to see what James can do with Michael Thomas and Chris Olave. Olave is like a perfect number 2.
Exactly. Chris Olave is going to be that field stretcher that offense needs. Him and Jameis Winston are perfect complements to one another. Jameson Winston. And then also the trade up for Detroit to go get Jameson Williams is absolutely incredible. I think Jameson Williams was a top 5 talent in this class. I loved him. I think he's going to be a superstar. And Detroit has the opportunity to be patient with Jameson Williams after his ACL injury in the national championship. So he's going to have time there to just grow. And then who knows, maybe they'll have his quarterback from last year on the roster next year. Well, with that, we're up at number 13 overall with another trade up. Early teens gave us a lot of trades. There was no trades in the top 10, and now we get a bunch. And we got the Eagles moving up 2 spots past the Ravens. And I called this on the draft live stream. It was pretty obvious who they were moving up for, I thought. And it turned out to be Jordan Davis, the defensive lineman from Georgia. Georgia going again. Sully, give us your insight.
Oh, you want my insight? Okay.
I want your thorough draft analysis that you provide.
Well, the Eagles, man, you need help in the trenches. Jordan Davis, big boy coming out of Georgia. We know my opinion if you listen to the pod about, interior defensive linemen. I don't love taking them. I mean, 13 is not too early, but they did trade up for him. Not to say that he's not a great player, but I'm just not a big fan. I know the Giants have done it a lot recently. Dalvin Tomlinson, who was a pretty solid player for the Giants. We did it with Dexter Lawrence, who also is pretty solid for the Giants. But those guys are playing, if they're great, they're playing 60% of the snaps. Now I'm using a 13th overall pick plus a trade up to get a guy who's playing 60% of the snaps. Granted, he could be really good in those 60%. And if he is, it is worth it. But it's a little questionable for me. But regardless, I do know that he's like a freak athlete. And obviously they need help in this position. So for fit wise, it does make sense. And if he does reach his potential, athletic potential, it probably will end up be a pretty good pick, but overall, still not in love with a D tackle at 13th overall. But what do you guys think?
The thing with Jordan Davis is I kind of realized this as time is going on. I mean, we said that if he somehow fell to the Chargers at 17, it would just be such a beautiful fit there. They obviously need interior help. But the more you think of it, and it was like he was never really going to end up at 17 because Jordan Davis's skill set is just something we've never really seen before with an interior defensive lineman. His run stopping ability is absurd. And like you just mentioned, Sully, his athletic traits is incredible. And when you come from that Georgia defense that had 5 guys in the first round, it's awesome. And you could argue he was the best defensive player on that team last year. Obviously, Travon Walker went ahead of him, but we've said our thoughts on Travon. But Jordan Davis is incredible for the Eagles. Like you said, I mean, he's going to be great with that defensive line. They needed it. And I think he's going to make a really solid career. He was pumped up. I don't know if you guys saw when he went into the Eagles area and was cheering with them. It was funny to see, but yeah, we all kind of knew it was going to happen when they moved up. But good pick. I'm good with it. I think the Eagles and the Giants had really good drafts, and Washington and Dallas did not. So it's like half the NFC East did, half it didn't. So,
and I really love this pick for the Eagles. I think this is just a natural replacement for once they let Fletcher Cox Fletcher Cox leave in free agency next year, most likely. They signed him to a 1-year deal this offseason. He's just an athletic freak that they will develop, and Philly knows how to develop these guys. They do it all the time. So I think it's a great pick for Philly, and we will get back to them shortly with a trade they made, a shocking trade they made at 18th overall, which I think we all will like. But we'll get there. At 14 overall, though, we've got the Baltimore Ravens sitting still and taking Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame. A lot of people considered a top 1 maybe, but mostly top 5 prospect in this draft. And then there was a bunch of people that weren't high on him at all and thought of him as a person that would go in the teens or in the 20s. Kurt, you and me both had him really high up on our boards. And Kurt, I know you were really in on Kyle Hamilton going to the Commanders at 11th before they traded down. You were very disappointed that they didn't take him at 16. I know Carl was a big fan.
Carl is upset.
Of Kyle Hamilton.
Nah,
but he was disappointed that
Carl sent me the 7 a.m. text saying he likes Jahan Dotson. So
yeah. He watched the highlights last night after the draft. Kurt, tell us what the Ravens are getting in Kyle Hamilton.
I heard this on the radio this morning. I completely agree. Kyle Hamilton is going to be a Pro Bowl safety for the Ravens, and it's going to be another instance of we looked way too into it and didn't make the simple pick because his talent was always there, and you just say fuck the position when you have a guy that special. Kyle, and it's again like I just mentioned, Nathan Hutchinson. I mean, the Ravens sat still, and they had the best player easily by a landslide available there at 14. It's not a drastic need for them at safety, but they could use another safety. And a guy like Kyle Hamilton, of course, you're going to need on that great defense already. So the Ravens every single year with Eric DeCosta just do such a beautiful job of maneuvering the draft, whether that just be staying still, moving up, moving back, and they have a boatload of picks in this day 2, day 3. It's absurd what they do on an every day or every year basis. And getting Kyle Hamilton is perfect. We'll talk about the Ravens later on, but love it. It's great. I mean, Kyle Hamilton, he just is, his vision on the field is absurd. He's extremely fast. I mean, if you want to watch great film, just watch his game against Florida State. And he was just all over the field with 2 interceptions that day. So
no, Kurt, he ran a 4.7, so he doesn't play fast.
And that's another one. That's we've talked. I remember exactly when we talked about this in the pod. There's a huge difference between on-field speed and actual speed. Like if he looks fast on the field, it doesn't matter.
Receivers and safeties are not running in a 3-point stance. They don't do that. It's literally
that's the slander with Jahan too, because he ran like a 4.43, and everyone's like, he didn't run a 4.3. He didn't run like a late 4. I'm like, please fuck off. We're getting spoiled by a 4.43. My bad. But no, it's Kyle Hamilton's a great pick. Of course it happens with Baltimore. Who else would it happen to?
The Ravens do this better than everyone. They always sit and pick, and they do it better than anyone else. They did it again later in the draft, which we will talk about later, and they got a stud at 25. I think they picked him at, and they also traded that pick for a steal. We'll get to that as well. Sully, you like Kyle Hamilton at all? Or
I'm a Notre Dame guy, man. I've been a Notre Dame guy for a while. Just grew up. My dad always loved Notre Dame, so I grew up a Notre Dame fan. Brady Quinn was my guy.
Quinn was a stud.
Yeah, he was. So I gotta support the Notre Dame alum, and like you said, the Ravens have a history of having some pretty good safeties. We know a guy named Ed Reed, and, he was pretty versatile. You get another guy, Kyle Hamilton, versatile player, can kind of play all over the field. Ravens kind of like those type of players, and it makes sense. I mean, I feel like we've seen those players are a little bit hit and miss, though, I feel like in the NFL. There's guys who are like, oh, he doesn't have a position, which can be a good thing, and it can also be a bad thing. At the same time, I don't think Kyle Hamilton's going to fall on the bad side of that. Because I do think that although he is very versatile, he is also a very good safety. So I think he'll be fine. But I like it from the Ravens. Like you said, just pick and get the value. Don't try to do anything fancy.
Yeah, figure it out. When you get a talent in the building, just figure it out. I mean, I'm already hearing things that they're going to use him at weak side backer, which would be interesting. but they're already trying to experiment. I mean, we're not having Wink Martindale run this defense for the first time in a while. He's with the Giants now. So we'll see what this new defensive coordinator likes to use for their DBs. And don't think he's going to play like strong safety. He's going to be all over the fucking place. So
I want to read off just how cool Kyle Hamilton is too. I don't know if you guys saw this, but at Notre Dame with the NIL brands, he launched a podcast, clothing line, memorabilia deal, youth camp, a merch store, and a trading card deal. He also now has deals with Chipotle, Gillette, Herbalife Nutrition, and Rowback. And yesterday he had a Call of Duty Task Force 141 suit. So the dude's just killing the game. He's 21 years old. I'm almost 20, and he's just so much better than me at life.
It really hurts knowing that these guys are our age, and they're
everyone in this draft is better than us at life. Okay, we can get that out of the way.
Yeah, we get it. All right, 15th overall, the Texans after trading down with the Eagles, they made their selection. Kurt, just hit me.
Sam, man, I look. Kenyon Green was someone because he just seems like a perfect guy that NFL teams would love. I know that, there's obviously Zion Johnson is maybe a better interior guy, but Kenyon Green, just because of how fucking he's huge and he just fits, I feel like, more of what NFL GMs are looking for. And I don't know exactly the podcast, but they were went into detail about how Kenyon Green will be a sneaky top 15 pick, and it all made sense. And when I got the over under 27.5 for minus 120 odds, I put way too much.
One out of the park.
It was so free, dude. It was great. Made $75 last night, boys. So that's how you do it from a betting standpoint. But anyway, no, I think there are better options for the Texans to go here at 15, but it makes sense why teams are very high on Kenyon Green. And like I said, maybe he shouldn't have been the pick at 15, especially with the Texans having that 13th pick, maybe moving into the top 10 to get whoever was on their board. It didn't really happen. They settled with a Kenyon Green, and anytime you can upgrade the trenches with a first-year head coach who praises running the ball, it'll be all right. It's not bad. I mean, I think it's all right. I like Kenyon Green. I think he's a solid player. It's not the out of the park pick, but it'll do.
Yeah, well, they took the wrong offensive lineman. That's really my thing. Zion Johnson is the better. If they're going to play Kenyon Green at guard, they should have took Zion Johnson because he's just the better player. He's one of the best players in the draft. And I'm interested to see if they put Kenyon Green at tackle. That would be interesting also. I haven't really looked into their press conference if they've said what position he'll play. But when
you couldn't pay me to watch a Houston Texans press conference.
Exactly. But Kenyon Green, when he played tackle at A&M, they were not a great offense. He switched back to guard. They were humming. So they were humming. His best strength is at guard. So I think he should be a guard at the NFL level. Typically, that's where he probably will play, but we will see what the Texans decide to do. Sully, I know you love your offensive lineman.
I'm a big Kenyon Green guy. He's an
he won me money, fella. So he's the best ever.
He's an interesting fella.
Yeah, he's very interesting. He loves outdoors. Loves the outdoors. Which is good. You want your football player like the outdoors because they usually play outside.
You're gonna see if that's an actual thing you said.
No idea.
That's Sully's scouting report.
Let's talk about Jahan Dotson, though.
I'd rather not.
He's sometimes mistaken for Kevin Dotson. Is that his name? Kevin Dotson played for the Knicks. No, what's the guy's name?
He played for Kansas.
No, it wasn't actually the Knicks. I thought it was the Knicks.
Devin Dotson.
Oh, Devin Dotson. Yeah, Devin Dotson.
Yeah,
Devin Dotson, former Knicks player. Yeah, he played for the Knicks. Don't let it fool you. Jahan Dotson, though, he was selected here. Kurt, you have anything to say about that?
I cannot find anything for Kenyon Green.
No, he loves the outdoors.
Does Jahan Dotson like the outdoors?
No, he's actually an insider. He's loves the couch. That's okay, though. He likes to chill.
He just watches his film on the couch.
I gotta say, they showed this guy's highlights after he was selected, and I was not impressed at all. I don't think he had like 1 yard of separation on any highlight that they showed. But that's just me, man. I don't know.
So you would hate Drake London.
Yeah, I do hate Drake London, actually.
But did you say the pick was all right?
Yeah, because it's okay. It's whatever.
Oh, okay.
Because usually what I think is wrong. So if I hate it.
Oh, I thought you were never wrong. What happened?
No, I've never been wrong. I don't know what I said.
Yeah, just a little slip up in the words.
I don't like this Jahan Dotson pick, but that's me.
All right. So my thing with Jahan Dotson in Washington, I'll go on a little rant because it's the Commander. So hopefully I'm not too wrong. I liked trading back. And because we don't have after we are at pick 47, we don't pick until like so many, I don't know the exact spot after that, but originally we did not have a 3rd round pick. And we didn't have an early 4th round pick.
Gee, I wonder what you traded those for.
Okay. Anyway, but so we and Ron Rivera, it was obvious. He said in his press, the pre-draft post game, or what am I saying? Pre-draft conference, whatever.
Pre-draft
right?
post game.
I don't know what I'm saying. He said he said he does not think we're going to stick with every pick in the draft, and there's going to be a lot of maneuvering to get draft picks in those day 2, day 3 picks because there's so much value there with obviously the COVID year, NIL. We all know this is the deepest class in a long time. So I was fine with trading back, especially I wanted Kyle Hamilton, but with Garrett Wilson off the board, you can maybe trade back and get one of those guys available. But obviously we know Chris Olave, Jameson Williams went boom, boom right after that. And now the best wide receiver available was a Jahan Dotson, maybe a Treylon Burks.
Sky Moore is the best wide receiver available.
George Pickens.
Yeah, George Pickens too. You could go any route, but it ultimately was Jahan Dotson. And Jahan Dotson, I mean, I go back. He was a really smart guy at Penn State. He was, I don't
want a smart guy.
This is Kurt's research from last night.
A smart guy wouldn't be playing football. He'd be an engineer. I don't want a smart guy.
I just want to quote everyone when the Jahan Dotson pick went in. Kurt went, let me just reenact what he did.
Yeah, please do.
What? And then you went.
That's what you did for the Packers picks. So
no, well, for Quay Walker, I literally sat there in silence for like 20 seconds, be like, "What?" And then Devontae was a little. We'll get to those. But yeah, Jahan Dotson. Carl loves him though, so doesn't even fucking matter. He's gonna be a fucking Pro Bowler.
Let me read you the Carl text.
Hold okay. He sent you like a scouting report?
Yeah, no, he knows what he's talking
Commanders could have drafted a literal like murderer, and Carl would be like, "That's my guy."
He knows that too.
That's why he's a great fan. You need to have Carls on your side.
He said, "Good morning. I'm really glad we drafted back. I have mixed I have mixed feelings about the pick, but always want to remain positive. I think this helps us re-sign Terry and takes a lot of pressure off him. Just wish he had a little more size." Facts.
Yes, that's a fair.
Yeah, your receiving core is kind of small.
It is. And the thing with Jahan is I think a lot of people just automatically assume he can go the slot. He's not a traditional slot receiver though, but it's kind of interesting because you can kind of play him in a bunch of different roles. That's kind of what he was at Penn State. And obviously too, like, here's my thing. Terry is undisputably wide receiver 1. We're not looking for a guy that is going to be wide receiver 1 on this team. If
you're always looking for that, that's a stupid statement.
Shut up. If he can just be like a 700 yard guy.
You just drafted a 600-yard guy at 16th overall. What are you doing, man?
I'm kind of a Sully on this one. You don't want to draft someone like
that. I understand what you're saying, but you shouldn't be drafting.
You should always be aiming. You should always be aiming to get
the best player available.
The best player.
I sure, that's fine. I'm just saying if that's his role, I'm fine with it, and I see the value there because he was. All right. Disagree.
No, keep talking.
I'm just saying, if Terry's the wide receiver 2 and he's a really solid wide receiver 3, Logan Thomas as your tight end, Curtis Samuel takes on a much more healthy, impactful role.
Oh God, I forgot.
That wide receiver room is really not that bad. And we're putting Carson Wentz in so many good positions. Antonio Gibson as running back, a good O-line. It's really not that bad offense. So what I have to say.
I completely forgot you had Curtis Samuel on that
I
team.
didn't forget. That's why I was always
He's
a little
the fucking
confused.
best ever.
Yeah.
I completely forgot. All right. 17th overall. I doubt you guys have anything to say about
The
this.
fuck went 17. Let me check.
Zion Johnson.
Johnson.
Johnson went to the Chargers at 17. I think this pick is absolutely amazing. Zion Johnson is a top 10 player caliber in this class. He's the best guard in the class easily.
Besides Kenny Green. I mean,
no, he's better.
Were the Chargers going to make the playoffs?
Yes. And the Chargers always just do this thing where they're just so smart. They pick the right player. They always pick someone I love. And except for Jerry Tillery. But you loved it. Zion Johnson pick is awesome. They're just going to kick. I mean, the right side of their offensive line looked like an absolute shambles. But I think what they're going to do is they're just going to kick Matt Filer out to right tackle, which is perfectly okay. He was good for them last year. And play Zion at guard. I think he's going to have a Pro Bowl. He's going to be a Pro Bowler early on in his career. And I think that's pretty plain and cut and dry. He's going to be that good.
I couldn't sleep last night until I realized that Zion Johnson was a Charger. I was like, thank God. That would have been horrible. Yep. So I'm really happy it happened.
All right. 18th overall. The Eagles traded this pick for AJ Brown.
Deadass thought you said it. Yeah, I thought you said AJ Green last night, and I was like, "Who fucking cares?"
That trade happened when
that would be
Jahan
the worst
Dotson
trade in
got
history.
All right, I just heard
you guys had like no reaction to when I went, "What the fuck?" And then you guys just literally had no reaction.
I thought you said AJ Green. I was like, "That guy."
I knew
sucks.
You said AJ Brown, but I'm so numb to everything. Kurt said this in like one of the podcasts. Like, I'm so numb to shit that happens in sports now because it's like, I mean, this offseason was insane. Like Devonta Adams was traded, Tyreek Hill was traded, like. AJ Brown, there was a lot of rumors that he'd be moved. The Eagles obviously was one of the teams that was rumored. I was definitely pretty shocked, but at the same time, it's like
if
I just kind of think the Eagles are like, even though they were better than the Giants last year, the Eagles are irrelevant to me. I don't know why I feel that way, but they are. So
I mean, if Jalen Hurts,
I actually decently like Jalen Hurts too. So it's weird that I think that.
I think the Eagles could be really solid.
I think they could be a playoff team.
They're also irrelevant, though.
Yeah.
The NFC is bad. It's literally just Tampa Bay, LA,
the Giants, and the
Commanders, New York.
Yeah.
I think there's only like 3 locks for the playoffs in the NFC right now.
Yeah.
And there's 4 spots up for grabs. The NFC East is wide open. I think the Eagles definitely could be in play for that NFC East spot. And AJ Brown, they traded 18th overall and a third for him, which is a great trade when you take into account that the Cardinals traded 23 overall for Marquise Brown.
I mean, how is Marquise Brown worth a 23 overall
sucks.
pick? It's so bad.
It's one of the worst trades I've ever seen in my life. I mean, apparently Hollywood requested a trade like 2 years ago. It's been in the works for a couple months. That
2 years ago. He was a rookie 2 years ago.
Apparently he requested a trade.
That's a fucking power move. I was a rookie, so get the fuck me out of here.
That's what he said. And they traded 23 overall for him right after Jahan Dotson got picked. So probably they only have 5 first-round grades on receivers. Saw Hollywood Brown and we're like,
well, when Jahan's off the board, you go panic mode because you're like, fuck the best player off the draft.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yep.
But I mean, when you take that into account, you trade for the like 40th best receiver in the NFL for a first. Meanwhile, a top 10, arguably top 10 receiver in the league. Yeah, AJ Brown's probably top 10 receiver in the league, goes for a first and the third. You did bad. Like
you fucked up.
You did bad.
At this moment he knew.
Yeah, what an awful trade by the Cardinals. The Cardinals, like Kurt, what you said earlier, like you respect the fuck out of the Cardinals for ditching Josh Rosen, taking Kyler Murray. And I agree with that. And obviously the DeAndre Hopkins trade just fell into their lap. But they do some weird stuff when it comes to like their gut.
Yeah, you know what they did? They fired Mike McCoy, who used to live in my neighborhood. That was the biggest mistake of all time.
Unreal.
It's devastating.
But they hold to their gut a little too often, and really weird stuff that the Cardinals always end up doing. But I mean, Hollywood's back with his college quarterback, so that's fun. And AJ Brown. And so the Titans got pick 18. And then they made the most obvious pick ever, taking Traylon Burks, who literally does exactly what AJ Brown does, just not as good. And he's not nearly the athlete that AJ Brown is, but he's got practically the exact same skill set as AJ Brown. It was a pretty obvious pick, and it was pretty obvious that was going to happen. What are you guys' pulse on this selection after the AJ Brown trade? And do you think it was the right move to trade AJ Brown after not wanting to pay him $25 million a year, which is the contract that he got?
Well, and wasn't it reported that AJ said he would have done it for 22, but they couldn't even offer 20?
Wait, really?
That's what I heard.
I did not see that.
I'll try and find it. But yeah, I heard that he would have signed with Tennessee if it was 22. They didn't even offer 20. And then Philly was open to doing 25, which is unbelievable.
Here's the thing, man. Here's the thing.
Ridiculous.
You know, back in the day in the NFL, you don't miss fucking 8 games in a season and then say, yeah, give me $25 million per year. That didn't happen.
The whole offense runs through AJ Brown, essentially, though.
Well, that's inaccurate.
Their entire passing game.
Derek Henry.
Their entire passing game runs through AJ Brown.
I understand. AJ Brown is very vital to this team. They're going to struggle, in my opinion. AJ Brown's very, very good. But like I'm saying, like you can't just miss half the season and then be like, yeah, give me a huge guaranteed deal.
Sully, you can't act like AJ Brown hasn't done shit for his whole career.
I'm just saying, man, that's a little questionable. You're not even he's not a free agent next year, right?
Oh, he isn't because they extended him.
Well, I know, but he had one more year.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, I don't know, man.
But I'm also at this point too, where I understand we're going to have to pay Terry 25, but I'm more than happy to give it to him. Like, that's just the way it's.
Well, the thing is, other teams are going to give it to them. So now you just have to do it because they can go somewhere else and get it. So now, even if they miss half the season, they want all this money and you do want to keep them, you got to give them the money. I don't think it's a horrible idea to kick them out and get someone else new, honestly, because the Titans aren't going anywhere.
All right. Yeah. So
Tannehill's. Ugh.
All right. AJ Brown told Travon Davenport that the Titans contract extension offer was for $16 million per season with incentives that could get up to 20. Brown says he would have stayed if they offered $22 million per year and said, this wasn't my fault.
Yeah. I mean, they offered him less than Christian Kirk. That is yikes.
Why is Christian Kirk making $23 million a year? That is
player.
Blasphemous. Yeah, he's a great player. Underrated on the Cardinals.
I mean, remember when Christian Kirk got that contract and now like every receiver is getting.
Do you remember when we shit on Sully
money
for saying he was like, Sully was like, he's not bad. We were like, he sucks. Now he's the third highest paid receiver.
I'm a genius.
All right. Yeah, Traylon Burks. We really don't have much to say. We kind of dislike how the Titans handled this situation, but Traylon Burks literally will just be in the AJ Brown role.
He's not Sky Moore, but he's decent.
Yeah, I mean,
when Sky Moore, DeMarco Jackson get taken, then the draft.
I'm telling you, Sky Moore is going to be the best player in this draft.
All right, word.
I don't know what team he plays for.
Western Michigan. All right.
God, that's a
19th overall. We had the New Orleans Saints back on the clock. They take Trevor Penning, the tackle from Northern Iowa. We didn't really talk about this at pick 11, but we thought it was going to be for Malik Willis initially, because they traded up, and it turned out not to be. So this is pretty obviously we're not going to take a quarterback here. They need a tackle bad after Teron Armstead left in free agency. The Saints, after having the best offensive line in the NFL for years, now have one of the worst. They take Trevor Penning, who's an athletic prospect. He was like a late first. Me and Kirk kind of agreed on, but he was the best tackle probably left on the board.
Easily.
And the Saints take him. I thought it was a pretty obvious pick. Don't hate it. I think the Saints can coach him into something good. So
I think we all agreed they were going to go offensive tackle, wide receiver. It just didn't matter what order.
Unless they went for a quarterback.
Yeah, which they did not. Yeah, no, we said on the draft, we were like, it's going to be Trevor Penning, and it was. So, yeah, I mean, Trevor Penning has some question marks. I know Kuiper was talking about it last or during
He's not
the draft.
vaccinated, though. Don't listen to
Kuiper. He has problems with penalties. He gets a little too aggressive sometimes, but like whatever, it's fine. And then
is that fine? I fucking want to blow my brains out when a guy has like multiple holding penalties in the same game. It's like, dude. It kills drives.
Get ready to talk about Tyler Smith then. Woo.
I like that.
Oh,
He's
boy.
on the Cowboys. A holding penalty kills a drive, man. That's a drive killer
Dude,
right there.
when I actually don't think there's a worse feeling in life when you get like a 25-yard completion than it's a holding.
Yep,
I want to literally
and you
slap
look at
someone.
it, and it's just like you didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
It's like on the opposite side of the line, like it was just not in the play. It's every time, man.
Holding is it's holding happens on every single play.
Yeah.
And it's a 10-yard penalty. Like that is 5 yards. I think they should change it to, but yikes. Like if you're going to if you're going to change it to 5 yards, you could call it maybe a little more often, but it's still annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, Trevor Penning, he'll go to New Orleans. He'll probably be good because the Saints just tend to do that. All right. Pick 20. The Steelers stay pat and they take a quarterback, not trading up for a quarterback, not doing what we all thought they were going to do, which was taking Malik Willis. They decided to stay in Pittsburgh and select Kenny Pickett, the quarterback out of Pitt. Hand size is so small. Sully, can you tell me about Kenny Pickett and his small baby hands and what they're getting in Pittsburgh?
My thing about Pickett, I like him. I think he's a good quarterback. They do, you know what they say about small hands, though, small penis. And small penis, not ideal, but that's okay. I think we can get around that.
You just said he's a small
Great
penis?
football players, though.
Yeah, well, when you have small hands, they say small penis.
Oh, right. Makes sense.
So I don't know. That's tough. No, seriously, though. I think Pickett's good. I feel like I feel like he's like safer than Malik Willis, even though people do say like, the hand size, blah, 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 all that, whatever. I guess it was smoke that the Steelers were kind of, because everyone thought Steelers are going to trade up for Malik Willis and whatnot. They never did. They end up going QB here. If you said they're going to pick QB at 20, I guarantee 80% of people would have said they're going Malik Willis. They go Kenny Pickett. That was their guy, obviously. I don't hate him. I know you guys have said a million times that all the quarterbacks are kind of similar in this draft. There's no really guy that's head and shoulders over anyone else. I'm a Corral guy, personally. But Kenny Pickett, I think he could be pretty solid. And I do think that he's not playing more than 6-7 games this year if he gets in at all, in my opinion. They obviously have Mitch Trubisky, who's obviously not a great quarterback, but I do think that he's a little bit underrated because he's kind of a meme and everyone thinks he's horrible. Whereas I think he's okay. Made a fucking Pro Bowl in his career already, which is impressive. But yeah, I don't hate it. I think it's fine.
Kurt loves him, so
I think Kenny Pickett's winning the QB battle. I think he's going to start week 1.
That's all. I mean, that is possible.
Pickett's my quarterback 1. It's funny because Mike Tomlin took Malik Willis out to dinner and it just didn't matter. But yeah, I like Kenny Pickett. He was my quarterback 1, like I just mentioned. It's very concerning his first however many years at Pittsburgh, because outside of his, like, going into this year, he was not even close to being an NFL quarterback, and then an electric senior year was the reason why he's in this position. He had one of the best offensive lines in college football, so he can use that to his success. But he has a lot of good things about him. From a production standpoint, like back half of the year, he was just so much better than Malik Willis. And I think from, like I said, a production standpoint, he's a better quarterback than Malik. Everyone just loves Malik's traits, his big arm, his potential per se. But Kenny Pickett, if you're having to start someone in week 1 out of this whole quarterback draft class, it's easily going to be Kenny Pickett. And Kenny Pickett's never going to be a top 5, even I would say a top 10 QB, but he's never, I don't think, going to be a bottom 3
I would never
guy.
draft him then. I would never, ever touch him.
Why would you draft him in the first round then?
I'm not saying Pittsburgh should have. I'm just saying he's my quarterback 1, which I didn't have a round 1 grade on any of these quarterbacks. And everyone talks about that. Like with Malik, yeah, I would take Malik maybe first, even though I don't know. Like, I think Kenny, even though it's my QB1, I see why you would take Malik first because of that huge potential. But Malik, everyone ignores just how fucking bad he was in the back half of the year. Yep. It was not good at all.
Yep.
So that's my thing. But at least with Malik, you have that insane potential. Sam, do you disagree with me with Kenny? He's never going to be an elite level quarterback, but he's going to be fine for Pittsburgh. Like, I think week 1, he's not going to have a bad game. He's going to throw for like 2 touchdowns and a pick for 20 yards. Be something like that.
They probably will never win a Super Bowl with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. They probably won't. But I think he can be a long-term starter. I think he can be, but is that really worth spending a first-round pick on?
No.
I mean, if you're going for ticket sales, sure, and making the playoffs and flaming out early on, which the Steelers always do, they, other than Ben's early years, sure, that's fine. But if I were them, I would have taken Malik Willis. I know, Kurt, early last year, I told you how much I love Malik Willis. I remember. And then the back half of the year happened. I'm like, damn, he looks, ugh. And I completely dropped him down my board. I kind of understand. I'm very happy the NFL agrees with us and draft media about this quarterback class, and no one overdrafted a quarterback, which is good. But I still would have banked on the upside of Malik if I were going to use a first round pick and a quarterback. And now all these quarterbacks are in the 2nd and 3rd round, and I have no idea where they're going to go. Genuinely have no idea. Tennessee, Tampa Bay, who really knows? We'll have to wait and see. That's gonna be interesting.
I will say though, Kenny being drafted by a Pittsburgh team and the whole emotional state he was in, that was cool to see.
It was cool.
That was pretty dope.
It's kind of like Aiden staying in Michigan. It's kind of the same thing. It's cool to see guys stay where they played, and it's because the fans are gonna love them regardless.
Yeah.
21.
21.
Sorry.
Yeah, Trent McDuffie. I thought he'd go higher than 17.5. I made that bet. I did not get it, but Kansas City moves up and gets a really solid corner. They banked on a corner when they got L'Jarius Sneed, and I think they're going to bank on a corner here when they get Trent McDuffie, my cornerback 3. But I think he's closer to that Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley range than a lot of people think. I think there is a gap between those two guys and the rest of the field, but I think McDuffie's kind of right there, not too far behind. And I think Kansas City, it's a great fit. You're on a winning team. Kansas City is always in the hunt. I know we can talk about their defense, particularly their secondary. It was really bad to start the year last year. Both Steve Spagnuolo, they always figure it out, and they'll figure something out with Trent. It's a good trade up, and I like McDuffie. So,
yeah, I think he's closer to Sauce and Derek than he is to Kyer Elam. I think that's for sure. So getting him at 21, I think is a great move. I think he's the 3rd best corner in the class. He is a stud. You could play him at safety if you want. You could play him at nickel. He could be your dime DB. You could put him in a lot of different spots in the secondary, and I think he will produce at every single position. There's concerns with his size, but if you watch him, that dude is a blanket. So not really too worried about him. I think Kansas City is a great spot for him to land, and they obviously prioritize defense with this draft for sure. A lot of speculation about them going receiver, didn't end up happening.
Yeah, Sully, any thoughts?
No thoughts.
All right, word.
All right, pick 22. The Green Bay Packers select not a wide receiver. They take a linebacker, and that linebacker is Quay Walker. I'll just ask this right away. With either of the first 2 first-round picks, do you think it's egregious that they didn't take a receiver?
Kinda.
Yeah.
I think I genuinely don't know who he's throwing to next year.
I'll say this. I think that if you take the fact that I know Sam loves his stat, the fact that since 2012 or 2011, whatever it is,
so sick of hearing this.
1 first-round pick on an offensive player, and it was a backup quarterback that's played 1 game because they have Aaron Rodgers. Now,
who would have thought?
I don't care if you got to overdraft here, if you don't have, George Pickens or whoever wide receiver you want to target. I don't care if you think it was somewhat of an overdraft. You have to, at some point, look at your past history and be like, we don't give this guy. I know they had Devontae Adams, yeah, and Green Bay's had some great wide receivers. Don't get me wrong. Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings. They've had Randall
This,
Cobb. They've
this
had
is
great wide
recent. This is
receivers.
recent years we are talking about.
Yeah, like
Yes.
you have to give Aaron. I know he's had Devontae Adams for the past, 4 years. He was elite. Just keep giving him weapons, man, because it's Aaron Rodgers. He's the most talented quarterback of all time, in my opinion. At some point, you just got to be like, I don't hate that they go defensive, one pick here, but another pick. I think you got to give him a wide receiver.
Yeah, the thing is with this pick, Quay Walker, he's an athletic freak linebacker from Georgia, played in obviously the best college football defense. I think he's better than Nakobe Dean, but I still don't think he's the best linebacker in the draft. I think Devin Lloyd definitely was. And Quay Walker is like a second round prospect. He's not a first rounder, in my opinion. So I think this is definitely an overdraft. This is also kind of weird that they're picking him because they never value linebacker, inside linebacker. And they finally take a first round linebacker after I've wanted them to take a first round linebacker for years. After they extend Devondre Campbell, who had an all-pro season for them. And also Green Bay plays a lot of dimes, so they only usually have one linebacker on the field. So are they going to change up how they play defense, or what's the move here? So it kind of is just weird, like what they're doing with this pick. And then obviously you got the receiver question. I personally thought George Pickens was wide receiver 4 in this draft. So I would have loved taking him at at 22. But obviously, Aaron Rodgers even said it. Green Bay had 6 receivers with first round grades. All of them went. Obviously, it was the 6 guys that went in the first round. And we talked about it. The over under for receivers in the first round was 6.5. We got to pick 18. We got to pick 15. And Sully said, "Oh, so they're all going to go, or it's going to hit over." It didn't hit the over. It stayed the under,
man.
The Packers agreed. The entire NFL agreed with the Packers with not overdrafting a receiver. So Green Bay, I respect them sticking to their board and picking players they believed were the right fits. But I also don't think linebacker is near their biggest need. I would have said it is last year when they didn't have an all-pro linebacker. But now they do have an all-pro linebacker that plays a majority of the snaps. Like Quay Walker is only going to play 30% of snaps next year. I'm calling it right now. I think defensive line was their second biggest need, which they ultimately did address with 28. But I ultimately think they just need to read the room. You see these teams like the Lions and other teams like the Saints go up and get their guy. Green Bay just stood pat and didn't do it. Apparently, Ian Rappaport said this morning that Aaron Rodgers wanted Treylon Burks and that the Packers were working out a trade to move up. And once A.J. Brown got traded, it just never happened. So we don't really know what happened there. We'll see what they do on day 2. But I think Green Bay, like you were bringing up about how they don't help Aaron Rodgers in recent years, obviously they had so much receiver talent in the first half of the 2010s. And after those guys started to age, where it was old Jordy Nelson, old Randall Cobb, and younger Devontae Adams in 2016, they thought the receiver core was good, but their defense was absolutely awful after that Atlanta Falcons NFC Championship game. So they completely went all in on fixing this defense. And I will say they have fixed the defense. The new general manager who took over for Ted Thompson, he has done a great job of making this defense one of the best in the NFL. And you just saw it in the playoff game this past year. And he's continuing to do that. But the offense is suffering because of that. I know, Aaron, you almost tried to replace Aaron Rodgers. Imagine what this offense would be without Aaron Rodgers. It would not be a good offense.
Oh, we saw it. It was horrible.
It was bad. It was really bad. And I think they buy too much into this narrative that they're maestros in the second and third round at drafting skill position players. So I'm pretty sure they'll take a receiver in the late second or whatever it may be.
If you get Sky Moore, it's Super Bowl.
Yeah, Sam, you know who you need to take.
Jalen Tolbert. They'll probably take Tyquan Thornton at
Christian
53.
Watson.
Tyquan Thornton is an unbelievable name.
Christian Watson.
I feel like they're going to take Tyquan Thornton at 53.
Taekwondo?
they'll end up taking like Chicago somehow.
Excuse me?
Ever heard of Chicago? They're gonna take Chicago in the third round. I just know they are, and they'll probably take a receiver, an edge, and then a tight end tomorrow or tonight, and call it a day and say, "Oh, we address skill position," and then they'll think it's all fine and dandy. But then you look at the receiver room, and you're like, they're just going to be a running team. That's what they're going to do. They're going to try and embrace
my quarterback was Aaron Rodgers. I would.
That's what the Packers are doing. They're embracing the Niners narrative. They are going to be a run first team with an elite defense. That's what they're going to try and do. And we'll get to the Devontae Wyatt pick later, which I am a lot more favorable towards because I thought that actually filled a position of need, the second biggest position of need on the roster. But Quay Walker, this is more just what the Packers usually did in the past, but they're taking a position they typically haven't valued in the past, but they finally get 1 year of all-pro linebacker play, and now they've seen the light in how valuable a linebacker could change a defense. So I don't know. I didn't really like the pick. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure he'll be a good player. He probably will be, but I don't think the receiver, you need a receiver impact to take this offense to a Super Bowl, basically. And we saw that in the NFC playoffs this past year.
Why did the Bills jump the Cowboys for Kyer? Was Dallas going to take him?
I don't know. It sounded like they thought Tyler Smith was like the greatest player on the planet.
I thought they were always going to take Tyler. This pick is...
Might have been the Ravens they were afraid were going to take him.
I guess. This pick is all right. I don't really care. Like, it's Kyer Elam. Like, he's my CB 5.
Should have been Andrew Booth.
Should have been Kyler Gordon.
What a guy.
That guy is literally a NASCAR driver.
That's Jeff Gordon.
Kyer Elam.
If you're part of the Gordon family,
he's a good
you
fit
race
on the
cars.
Yeah,
I know Zach's
I'm
happy
really done.
about it.
I'm actually.
I know Zach's happy about it because he's a Florida fan. So that's good for him.
Could care less. All right, Tyler Smith to the Cowboys.
Awful pick.
Horrible.
Awful pick.
This is just fucking atrocious.
Cowboys suck.
This guy's going to be the best fucking tackle in the NFL. Guaranteed.
It's so funny seeing Cowboys fans, like all of them knew that Jerry Jones loved Tyler Smith and they were like, please don't take him. And they took him. He's just not good.
Yeah. And then when Tyler Smith sucks, Jerry Jones goes, yeah, that was Steven's pick.
Like Sam was
That wasn't me.
saying yesterday, he's obviously overly athletic, but he's just raw. His position, like his positional skills is just really rough. And I don't know if it's going to translate. I mean, maybe it will. But I was never a fan of him. I mean, I don't know the exact grade I had him when I do like grades, but it'd probably be like a late second, early third is where I'd put him at. And he goes early first round, which, I mean, we'll get to another guy that was overdrafted later, but this is a pick that, I mean, Cowboys.
At least the Patriots traded down for that.
Yeah. And Jerry Jones was just praising him in the press conference. He was like, yeah, we got our guy. And I'm like, dude, he sucks.
He's better than Kenyon Green. We had him better than Zion Johnson. Here's our whole draft board. You can see it right here.
No.
Like,
my analysis is Dallas is always a poverty franchise and they suck.
They probably just saw T. Smith and they're like, Tyron Smith?
Right.
They're probably going to play Tyler Smith at guard to start his career. And then
they're probably going to suck a cock because they are horrible.
They are horrible.
Cowboys are going to suck a cock. Okay.
Probably.
So
they suck.
A pick that did not suck a cock, though, was the Ravens with Tyler Linderbaum. And they traded back 2 picks to get a guy who, if they took at 23, would have been incredible.
If they took him at 14, that would have been great.
Yeah. Tyler Linderbaum was the best player available there. And we just talked about it with the Ravens and how they always just maneuver and kill the draft every single year. Tyler Linderbaum is an unbelievable talent. A lot of people had him in the top 15 on their big board, and they got him at 25, and it fills an offensive line position need. Good job.
Job, Ravens. Always killing it.
Job, Ravens.
All right.
Sully, wait. I got one question really quick.
Yeah.
Sully, Tyler Linderbaum is a wrestler. Could you beat him?
If he was or he was?
He is a wrestler. Could you have beat him in a wrestling match?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like he's too focused on football. I could probably beat him in wrestling.
How many months would you have to trade for to actually think you could beat him?
Sully is on the grind daily, so
I'd say
probably not much.
64 months.
Okay. Word.
That's a serious answer. And
That
I
is-
think
So
and
5 years.
in-
I think
months.
I would die in 13 seconds. He could kill me.
5 years, and if
Actually,
he gets
no,
NFL conditioning, well, you get
I actually think you could kill me.
your local YMCA.
Oh, my local YMCA is dangerous.
I think
Really?
he gets
Eh.
the Ravens
Tough.
coaching.
Number 26, Jermaine Johnson, who, like Sam said earlier in the podcast, was in the top 8 on New York's big board. We know the rumors that they could take him at 4. The fact that he's
We
here
talked about it on the live, yeah.
Yeah, and I know Sully made this comment last night. It just shows how unpredictable the draft is. And it's crazy that a guy was projected to go 4th just like 3 days ago, and he ends up going 26. Like, it's also first comparison I can think of, like Nasir Little in the NBA draft. He was projected to go 9th, and he ended up being a
That's
second.
the first person you thought of?
Yeah.
I would say JOK. That's what I think of.
JOK is a good one too. There's loads of guys that just fall in draft boards, and Jermaine Johnson was another one. Like, the Jets are coming away with Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson, which is an unbelievable 3 first-round picks they got. Like I said earlier, we praised Joe Douglas and the way he's done this draft over the last 2 years. Last year was Zach Wilson, Elijah Vera Tucker, Elijah Moore, loads of guys that everyone praised in that draft class. And here he slam dunk on the first 3 picks in the first round. I have no doubt he's going to kill it in the rest of the draft picks. I don't know exactly how many draft picks they have in the later rounds, but he'll kill it.
They have a lot of picks. I mean, it feels weird that these franchises that are usually dysfunctional are like
Doing well, like the
really good
Lions and the
things right
Jets.
now.
Yeah.
The Lions, the Jets, and the Giants. Like, this is weird. This feels really weird. But the Jaguars stayed jaguaring with pick 27, taking Devin Lloyd.
You don't like this pick?
You said you liked Devin Lloyd.
I love Devin Lloyd. I think he's great, but I would have helped Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, they did help him. They got a defensive player.
I thought it was a good pick.
I'm serious.
Hey, I mean, I respect the Jaguars having the same help Aaron Rodgers mindset with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, they saw that. They were like, all right, well, that team has the best quarterback ever. They drafted a defensive player. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I like it.
I think I agree. It doesn't hurt to get weapons, especially for your guy that is so
I would
regarded.
even offensive line, like anything.
I like if Jacksonville said Devin Lloyd was the best player available here at 27, I don't hate that. And what do we always say? If you take the best player available, it's never that bad. Like, yeah, I get your standpoint. Obviously, positional needs come into it as well. But they took the best player available. I mean,
would you rather them take Cole Strange?
They traded up for him, though. That's they actively went up to take him.
That's fair. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
No, I would
think
rather
he's good,
not.
man.
I would rather not have Cole Strange. I would not. But yeah, I think it's fine. I love Devin Lloyd though, so that's kind of a reason for it.
He has a very NFL name. I think he'll be good. Devin Lloyd. That's like.
That's why I'm not like
see it.
roasting.
Yeah,
it.
Devin Lloyd.
That's why I'm not roasting the pick because I like
Devin
Lloyd. I
Lloyd
think
seems
he's
like
a really good player.
He does because
They traded up to have the Patriots not take him, but the Patriots were
have
never
someone
going
named
to.
Lloyd on their team.
Sam Devontae Wyatt, you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I kind of referred to it a little bit earlier. Devontae Wyatt fills the Packers' second biggest need on the roster, which was defensive line. They have not helped Kenny Clark since Mike Daniels got cut. They've tried and add like a random veteran here or there, like a late round pick. They really haven't done anything to help Kenny Clark at all, who's one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. Devontae Wyatt is a beast. He is awesome. He can rush the passer. He can play the run. Basically everything you want in a modern 3-tech. He's a little undersized, but you could argue he was the better player between him and Jordan Davis on Georgia's defensive line last year. But he's not. He doesn't have like the ridiculous 10 RAS or he's 25 years old, or he's going to be 25 when the season starts, and Jordan Davis is 21. So obviously that'll knock him down boards. But I think for a win now team, makes sense to trade it or to take him. I think he'll play well in this defense, and the Packers defense, literally, I don't see a hole in this defense anymore. So
It should have been George Karlaftis.
good on them. I would have loved George Karlaftis. I think they do need.
You know where I do see a hole in your guys' team, though?
I said defense.
At wide receivers.
I said defense. Matters. I said defense.
And punter.
I mean, you can't throw to Devontae Wyatt.
Oh yeah,
that kind of sucks.
Did you see the video that ESPN had? He was a track star.
Yeah,
he can play receiver. You kidding me?
I like that.
Let's talk about probably the. What are you gonna say? Anything else?
Oh no, you're good.
Yeah, let's talk about the strangest pick in the NFL. And that is Cole Strange. Out of Chattanooga, we've all heard the Sean McVay. Thought we could maybe get him at 64, and he goes at
104.
104. So sorry. Doesn't matter. It was an overdraft. It's just a Bill Belichick move, though. Like, he's going to take a guy that has like a 3rd or 4th round grade in this early round out of a small school, and he'll trade back. We see this every year. Like, good job. He'll figure it out.
They should have traded back more if they were going to take Cole Strange.
But if you think he's your guy, you got to take him.
Nah.
I mean, if they took, obviously they wanted to go offensive line because Bill Belichick claims they would have taken him at 21 if they didn't get the trade back.
Pretty bad.
Yeah,
That's absurd.
If they took what? I mean, the other interior linemen that were available were Cam Jurgens, Sean Ryan, Dylan Parham. Like,
Dylan Parham is nasty.
I would have ripped all those picks.
But also for New England, like, interior is such a need for them, and he's a developmental guy. So it just kind of was weird in that regard that you're gonna have to plug him in week 1.
They shouldn't have traded Shaq Mason.
No.
Haven't the Patriots not drafted a Pro Bowler in like 8 years or something?
I believe it.
That wouldn't surprise me. Their drafting is not the best. Belichick, the GM, is not as good as Belichick, the coach. I think everyone knows that.
How about Belichick, the player? How's he?
Oh, he's amazing.
Did he play?
He would beat Tyler Linderbaum in a wrestling match. That's for sure.
I mean, a lot of people, including me.
But yeah, that was certainly an overdraft. All right.
Yeah.
30, Kansas City. Sully, who did the Kansas City Chiefs take?
They took George Karlaftis, and it should have been David Ojabo.
Facts.
Like that
even though me and Kurt love Karlaftis.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick by Kansas City. Obviously, we just mentioned what they did earlier in the draft, and that was great. But yeah.
What if they took Daxton Hill?
Great pick.
Yeah, I think they should have taken Daxton Hill.
I mean,
they already took McDuffie. Yeah,
it's weird. You get McDuffie and you get Karlaftis. Everyone thought with 29 and 30, which is originally what they had, they'd go like wide receiver and then go position of need. But even going 2 defensive guys, who we just talked about, even though they're desperate for wide receivers, it seems like right now, defense has always been a concern for them. And they're getting at that exact spot in the draft, like 2 of the best guys left in the draft. And it's a positional need. It's really solid for Kansas City. And it's 2 guys we're super high on. I have no doubt that they'll attack wide receiver help. And
I think they're going to trade up for Pickens or more.
Or just stick and get Jalen Tolbert, who's better than all of them.
Sully, what would you bet your life on that they have Pickens or Sky Moore at the end of
Sky Moore
2?
Well, when's their next pick?
Let's check.
I know they have a lot of picks.
50? Is it 50?
I think they're going to trade up, and I think they're going to get Pickens.
All right, hold on. The Chiefs' next pick is,
I think it's like 50.
50.
Yeah.
And after that, and they're mocked Christian Watson on this.
Yuck.
And then after that, it's 62.
I bet the Chiefs trade up to like 36 and get Pickens.
Okay.
That's my official.
That'd be a great move.
Yeah, I think they will.
They
have a lot of picks. They know they're in win now mode. I think McDuffie and Karlaftis are to, put them in right away, make an impact. They needed it on their defense, and I like it.
I mean, people are talking about like all these other teams, like the Lions, the Jets, the Giants winning the draft, which are completely fair. They did amazing. But I think the Chiefs are right up there too. Trent McDuffie and Karlaftis are steals at where they got him at. Great move by Kansas City. They filled probably their 2 biggest needs on the roster right there. But yeah, 31.
That's my guy.
The Bengals go Daxton Hill, who
I was kind of surprised by this move.
we all really like. What do you guys think this means for Jesse Bates?
I mean, Jesse Bates last year was not the Jesse Bates we've seen in the past. Yeah, it's weird because we all just assume they go interior, but the O-line depth at 31 by how the draft went, you weren't really getting anything too spectacular. So maybe they're just holding out until the second round.
You get a Cole Strange at 31.
Right. Who,
Maybe that was their guy. Maybe that was their guy.
Maybe Cole Strange
It could have been their guy.
They were shocked.
But instead, no. I mean, like you said, the idea of Jesse Bates in the future is one up in the air, but you get a Daxton Hill, who we all thought was exceptional. We all love Daxton Hill. What else should I say? I don't know what else I can say.
Jesse Bates was franchise tagged last year, right?
Yeah.
So what's his deal this year? Got it again?
Well,
yeah, he got it. He got franchise tag.
Yeah.
Again.
No, this is the first year he got tagged.
Oh, so he wasn't on the tag last year.
No.
Okay.
He's not at this year.
I guess that might be a little bit of a replacement pick, but I don't know.
Could be. Never know. Daxton Hill could play all over the place, though. He's kind of like McDuffie, but he's more of a safety than McDuffie is. But you can play him at slot. You can play Dax at slot.
I thought the Chiefs might go Daxton. They lost Tyron. I thought
they
that made
signed
sense.
Justin Reed.
There you go. I didn't know that. I don't know anything.
Well, you know everything, though. You're never wrong.
I know everything, and I'm never wrong. But I also just
you forget.
Yeah, on purpose. To test you guys. I'm gonna make sure you guys are, in the right spots.
And last pick of the first.
We should do an NFL trivia for a podcast one time.
That would be great.
I'm telling you, man. The NFL in 2014 is where is my knowledge.
All right, we'll do a 2014 NFL quiz.
I would dominate.
That was Sully's peak.
I would literally dominate.
When Odell got the catch, that was Sully's peak.
Oh my God, I was literally nutting.
And then 32 is Lewis Seen. Is it Sign or Seen? It's Seen, right?
It's Seen.
It's Seen.
Good job.
Lewis left on Seen.
No, it's not a good job. They traded down for that awful trade and then took a safety. That was okay. Or good, solid.
Yeah. You go from 12 to 32. It got to be depressing on draft day.
Jameson Williams is going to fucking run right by Lewis Seen, and it's going to be all over Twitter.
I just have to say the Vikings had the chance to take a player that would really change their team and help them make the playoffs, and I don't think Lewis Seen is that. But
the Lakers are eyeing Quinn Snyder as their next head coach.
Wow, interesting.
Not that I care about the NBA,
it's almost
but I thought that was kind of interesting.
It's almost as if the Jazz are about to blow up.
Yeah, it was
after losing last night, which is unreal.
It's a little rough, but
it's rough.
All right, guys.
All right, last question. How would you guys rate the draft?
I would rate it an 8.76 out of 10.
That's a good rating. I'd give it an 8.94.
I'll go an 8.94. I'll give it an 8.325. 368.
You gave it the lowest rating out of us. Did you hate it? What's wrong with you, dude? Come on.
Yeah. If you rate it low, if you rate it the lowest out of everyone, but you're still in the same vicinity, you hated it. This is how it works.
You guys watching day 2 today? Of
course.
Sully? I knew you weren't going to.
So is the
Giants watch the Giants pick?
Are the Giants taking Sky Moore?
Oh my God!
All right, Sully,
that would be unbelievable.
Giants select Malik Willis. How you feeling?
Great.
All right, cool.
Because honestly, it's kind of stupid because picks in the second. This is where you win the draft. We talk about winners of the draft.
Facts.
Only the first rounds happen. We say, the Giants won the draft. They got really good value, even though they were 5-7, which is crazy to say. But they got maybe the number 1 and number 2 prospect, which is good. Don't get me wrong. But if you can nail your 2, 3, 4, fourth round pick, that's kind of where you win the draft. We talk about the Saints draft where they got, Ramczyk was the last pick in the first round or whatever it was. They got Alvin Kamara. They got, who'd they else get in that draft? They got Trey Hendrickson in that draft.
Marcus Williams.
They got Marcus Williams. That was one of the best drafts in a long time in recent history.
Marshawn Lattimore.
And that's kind of how, You win the draft in these days.
Dude,
Now,
even go back to Seattle in 2012 when they got
Exactly.
Russ Wilson. Like Bleacher Report had it. You
They got
made the
roasted.
video, Sam. You gave him an F, and it turned out to be one of the best draft class ever.
Exactly. So we now watching it, you're not really going to know if your team won the draft, but this is kind of where you do win the draft,
Sully.
2 or 3 years down the line. So
I fucking know the Commanders won with Jahan Dotson.
yeah,
I know for a fact. So
definitely.
Um, Hey.
I mean, so back to my point though, if they do take Malik Willis, I'm honestly, this is going against what I kind of just said, where you win the draft in later rounds. But if we're taking a potential franchise guy that has a lot of tools for a second round pick, I'm down. Throw
Or
it
if
out
it
the
takes
door,
Matt
throw
Corral.
it out the window. That would be home run.
and Buccaneers are receiving trade calls for 33. So maybe it's the Giants moving up for Malik.
Maybe.
That's it.
Could be.
But that's it. Next year, we'll be doing this live in front of Arrowhead Stadium. It's going to be great. Thank you guys for listening. Third straight year. This was, again, probably our longest pod ever, but it's going to be it's gonna be as long as we keep doing it. But thank you guys for listening. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Come on.